I remember not knowing how to speak. When I was in preschool, my entire family was worried that no one would understand me. I spoke this Frankenstein monster tongue of English and Vietnamese. The gaps between two broken languages cannot make a full sentence. So, every other Wednesday during kindergarten, I'd be pulled out of class to fix my speech. What was wrong was that the words blurred like hummingbird wings, and my song came out as a whirlwind, too quick to comprehend, too fast to decipher. I learned how to smooth and comb the knots of my talk at the same time I was taught Chinese in school. No one would expect chipped china plates lined along the soft of my gums, but I only mastered English. At family gatherings, uncles and aunts spoke slowly to me, providing physical cues and gesturing towards food to give meaning towards their foreign speak. While on the other hand, I used to read big, important government letters to my parents. I made speeches. I learned how to do pirouettes like 99 nuns in an Indiana nunnery, or I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch, things my parents could never say. And in class, I learned how to speak Chinese, learned how to say the things I already knew how to say in English, started putting names to objects I forgot to label in Vietnamese. But there are some Chinese words that sound exactly like their English definition. Coca-Cola, cafe, olagan, and there are some Vietnamese words that sound ugly and jagged as they plunge out of my mouth. As hard as I tried to adopt my native voice, it never came out as clean as the shiny commercial talk that I saw on television every day. My mother is Chinese. My father is Vietnamese. I am American. She speaks Chinese. He dreams Vietnamese. I speak repaired tongue. I dream repaired dialect. I'm sorry, but can you speak a little bit slower? Em không biết nói tiếng Việt. I'm sorry, but can you repeat yourself? 我不知道说很多中文. It's not that I don't want to talk to you. It's just because I don't know how. I'm still trying to figure out. I'm still trying to tell you. I'm still holding on to the patched up language and stitched up words of my childhood. Even in my perfect English, there are some things I just don't know how to say. Some phim is a Vietnamese word that does not exist in English. It means, I'm done with you. It means, I am through. I'm at the end of my rope. Poetry has given me a voice. When I went to my first slam in Portland, Oregon, I was 17 years old. I was a lanky, awkward, long-haired, just kind of undressed teenager. So, just picture me except with like longer hair. And when I got to this place, my entire perspective was changed by this community of poets, young poets, old poets, new, amateurs, veterans. And if you know me, you'll know I have the world's shortest attention span. Like, they couldn't give me an 18-minute TED Talk. I would just ramble on and on and on and on. So when I say that an entire community of poets changed my perspective, it's gotta be good. Now, people hear the word poetry and they think like ivory tower, stuffy, highbrow, thou, or they'll think of like really cliche, flowery love poems. I mean, we're all in high school once. We know what those look like. Better yet, people will think about my favorite portrayal of the poet. They'll think about black beret, black turtleneck, those cool shades, coffee shops, bongos, talking about the revolution in a voice like this. But of course, that's not what poetry is about. I mean, I only own like 2 black turtlenecks. Poetry is not a form of literature that exists solely on a dusty page in the back of the library or just in your English professor's office. No. Poetry exists everywhere in our lives. Breaking Bad, Season 5 teaser trailer. Walter White's voice over the New Mexico desert as he recites one of literature's most beloved poems, Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. More and more poetry is being intertwined into our lives, into the mainstream, because it's an art form that's entertaining, but more importantly, it's because it provides catharsis. It's a form of self-expression. Contemporary poetry ain't your grandma's sonnets. No. As you can see, it becomes a more personal narrative. You get the live aspect of watching a band perform in front of you, and also you get the personal intimacy of reading a very intense memoir. As you can see, poetry talks about what's personal to us. We write about what compels us, what moves us, what is sometimes taboo or complicated. Now, the immense diversity of poetry is what makes this all incredible because, as you can see, everybody's perspective is equal, is valid. The crux and apex of poetry is that we don't care about the storyteller. We just want to hear a good story. So essentially, your story, all of your stories, we want to hear them shouted behind a microphone. And this is what's incredible, because everybody has a different perspective and everybody will open up a new conversation. I've seen breathtaking, devastatingly beautiful poems written from the perspective of a swastika, or love letters written by an entomologist. And as you can tell, I'm not a bug expert, nor am I an equilateral cross, but I share with these emotions, these connections, because poetry overall is written from a genuine and raw place. We love poetry because it explores humanity. Now, the creativity part, this is where things get really, really cool. As I said earlier, poets write about what's dear to us. And with that being said, every poem opens up a new conversation. We as a people like to share our opinions, and we as a people like to agree or disagree with our opinions, the internet. But regardless of what happens, if you agree, if you disagree, if you feel ambivalent, it opens up a new conversation. You realize that everybody involved with the poetry, poems, audience members, poets, everybody in that room is available to talk about this. These poems open up conversations, they generate real life talks. They might give you the perspective that you're not alone, or the genuine curiosity and understanding that there are some things you have no idea about. And that's the gift of poetry. Everybody has an equal say. We want to hear your stories. Essentially, your personal anecdote becomes my antidote. Even if it's written from a specific individual experience, we still connect with it because you're being human with us. You're being vulnerable behind a microphone. And that's what makes it so incredible. I've got one more poem for you guys tonight, and I just wanted to thank you, everybody, for being here and listening to my story, and hopefully you'll be able to tell me yours. So he said to me, "What kind of Asian are you?" And I just laughed and smiled and said, "Well, that's kind of a loaded question. What kind of Asian do you expect me to be? Because anyway you slice that egg roll, I'm still pretty much whatever you want to see." I played many a Far East stereotype. Awkward math genius, cold and calculated kung fu expert, assistant to Dr. Jones, you crazy. It's always dependent on the circumstance. You want me to drive? How so? I can give you Tokyo Drift, Jeremy Lin, Mario Kart, Tiger Woods, and blinker left on for about half a mile. I am the foremost expert on all things Asian. The Meiji era and the Band of the Samurai, done. Confucianism versus Taoism, I'll give it to you with no slant. What's the difference between Asian stereotype 1 and 2? Well, let me tell you anything you want to know about my culture. Let me tell you in a Mulan-esque soliloquy of me staring in the mirror asking, who is that girl that I see? Let me tell you about Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and how they are related by blood to me. Let me tell you about being so marginalized it's to the point of I really can't believe that's Asian. Let me tell you about derogatory terms and origins of words such as chink and gook. Let me tell you about the struggle of Asian parents not knowing the language, so we ate pet food because it was cheaper. Let me tell you about the job of interpreter. When you're still playing with Lego blocks, but your English is already that much better than your guardians, let me tell you about honor and dignity. Let me tell you about a society that projects us as nothing but the secondary role and never the leading man. Let me tell you all the things that you don't want to know, like how chink comes from the clanking of metal to railroad as the slaves built train tracks for this country to be connected, like how the zipper head down the street is called that because the way our heads split open when struck with assault weapons, or how jeeps ran over and left marks across corpses and someone clever thought that we were only good to unzip, like every time you lump an Asian person into one culture is systematically making us assimilate into an America we thought was better than our war-torn home, and every time you confuse me with some other nationality that I might share similar features to is stripping away my individuality, and I still feel the shame of being Asian. the heat and pious dedication of June 11th, 1963, the envy of blonde hair and blue eyes, and I still remember thinking where all the boys who looked like me on TV were. The broken words from my mother and father stage diving off my tongue, the anger I felt when those kids thought I would get them sick, and I still feel the ash of the incense burns my hands as I prayed for my family, and I still remember thinking my skin was what I was worth, and I still feel the ironwork of my bones grow stronger with every train of thought that passes by, and I still feel pride, and I still feel heritage, and I still feel Chinese, and I still feel Vietnamese, and I still feel American, and I still feel